Wait, did you notice the shift? That strange feeling, like reality paused for a second, then clicked back into place, just slightly different. The colors feel brighter. Someone you just spoke to seems off. A message appears exactly when you were thinking it. Coincidence? Or did you just move into another timeline? I'm Dr. Myles Munroe. Today we're diving deep into a phenomenon most people miss, yet it happens every day. Reality shifting isn't fantasy, it's a mix of science, consciousness, and perception. And if you're seeing this right now, there's a reason. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the hidden signs that you've already shifted realities. Yes, even without realizing it, we'll explore how your mind influences the quantum field, how tiny shifts in emotion can unlock completely new versions of your life, and why certain moments feel charged as if something beyond logic is happening. Most people go their whole lives dismissing these signs, but ancient teachings, cutting-edge neuroscience, and quantum physics all point to one truth: your reality is far more flexible than you think. And before you click away, there's something else. A recent finding, rarely discussed, shows how your attention alone can alter outcomes around you. It's not superstition, it's measurement, behavior, and human intention reshaping the fabric of possibility. So stay with me. You're not just watching another video, you're unlocking a doorway into a deeper version of your life. Welcome to Dr. Myles Munroe's, where truth meets transformation. If you're ready to explore hidden realms, subscribe now and let's journey beyond the ordinary. Something happened the moment you stopped and tuned in. A crack in the rhythm of your day. A moment that didn't quite fit. That's not just coincidence. It's often the first clue. Let's talk about what's really going on. Reality shifting. It sounds like science fiction, but it's not. It's the idea that your consciousness, your awareness, can move into a different version of reality. Not metaphorically, literally. A parallel timeline, where events unfold differently, where you feel slightly out of sync with your usual world. Now here's the truth most people overlook. Reality isn't fixed. It's not a concrete wall we bump into. It's fluid, responsive, and deeply connected to the observer, you. And when your mental state changes, when your emotions shift, when your attention sharpens, you begin to sync with a different frequency. That's when the shift happens. Psychologically, people have been practicing this for years without even realizing it. Through deep relaxation, breath control, and auto-suggestion, repeating focused intentions, the brain starts to rewire. The nervous system calms. The body begins to believe a new story. That's not imagination. That's a biological signal being sent to the quantum field. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Quantum physics tells us that the observer affects the observed, that particles exist in a state of probability until someone witnesses them. What if your consciousness works the same way? What if by focusing your mind, you collapse reality into a new configuration? That's what shifting is, a move from one set of probabilities to another. So when things feel off, when you sense a subtle change, that might be you stepping out of an old story and into the next. There's a theory, one that flips everything we know about reality upside down. It says that right now, as you listen to my voice, there are infinite versions of you. Not metaphorically, not in your imagination. Real, physical, measurable possibilities branching out with every decision you make. It's called the many worlds interpretation. And it proposes something profound, that every choice, every thought, every moment where you turn left instead of right creates a new universe, one where a different outcome plays out. You didn't miss that opportunity. You took it, just not in this version of reality. Now that's not just a philosophical idea. It's grounded in quantum physics. Let's take quantum entanglement. Two particles can become connected, even if they're separated by vast distances. Change one, the other responds instantly. It defies space and time. Why? Because they're operating outside the boundaries of the single world we see. Then there's the observer effect. Scientists found that simply measuring or watching a particle changes its behavior. That's not just curious, it's a hint. It tells us that consciousness interacts with matter, that your awareness doesn't just observe, it influences. Now bring in the holographic principle. It suggests that our three-dimensional world might actually be a projection from deeper layers of reality, layers we can't perceive with our senses, but that influence everything we experience. So when we talk about shifting realities, we're not talking about wishful thinking. We're talking about stepping into a version of reality that already exists, waiting for your attention to activate it. Every emotion, every belief, every focused thought becomes a key that opens another door, another universe. One where life unfolds differently because you chose to see it differently. Let's go deeper into the mind itself.
Because long before you shift your reality, you shift your state of consciousness. Psychological reality shifting doesn't start with logic. It begins in silence, in the quiet space between thoughts. The practice always starts with one thing: induction. That means guiding the mind into a deeply relaxed state, not sleep, not daydreaming, but a heightened awareness where the brain slows down, the body releases tension, and your inner world becomes more real than the outer. This is the same state used in hypnosis and lucid dreaming. Your conscious mind steps back, the subconscious rises to the surface, but in that space, the rules of time, space, and identity begin to bend. You're not imagining, you're aligning. Your body might stay still, but your awareness becomes fluid, able to shift across possible versions of reality. Now here's where it becomes powerful. Auto-suggestion. Repeating a clear intention, a chosen belief, or a vivid scene over and over. Not with force, but with feeling. The brain starts to accept that input as real. Neural patterns shift, hormones adjust, and eventually, your entire internal state starts matching the frequency of the reality you're focusing on. Research shows this practice changes more than your thoughts. It impacts memory, perception, even how the body prepares for future events. Just like in lucid dreaming, where a dreamer becomes aware and controls the dream, reality shifting gives you agency over the direction your life takes. It's not escape, it's interaction. This practice isn't new. Ancient meditation, modern neuroscience, and everyday experience all point to the same truth. When your mind fully accepts a new reality, your life begins to move toward it. You're not forcing it, you're aligning with it. That's where real transformation begins. It always starts small. A random video shows up in your feed just like this one. A title you weren't searching for. A phrase that feels like it was meant for you. And suddenly, everything starts to feel different. These aren't just stories. They're experiences being shared every day across forums, especially places like Reddit. Thousands of users report what they call shifts, some subtle, some dramatic. One girl described finding herself in a version of her bedroom where a poster was missing, but she never remembered taking it down. Another talked about opening her journal to see handwriting she didn't recognize, yet it was hers. One of the most fascinating patterns involves what people call DRs, or desired realities, shifting into specific story-based universes. Some shift into familiar books or shows, but many describe worlds that don't exist in media, completely new places with their own rules, people, and memories. They feel real, consistent, emotional. And then there are the surprise results. People trying to shift for fun, only to come back feeling different. Relationships feel smoother. Goals become clearer. Events unfold with eerie precision, as if life began rearranging itself to match a new inner alignment. Even in peer-reviewed spaces, researchers are beginning to explore this. One paper on ResearchGate called it an emergent daydreaming culture, but noted psychological effects, like stress relief, emotional regulation, and cognitive expansion. The validation doesn't just come from beliefs, it comes from results. From people noticing changes in their moods, their surroundings, and even their timelines. That's where science meets story. When hundreds of strangers begin describing the same strange feeling at the same moment from different places, you can't call that coincidence. You call it a pattern. One that's growing louder every day. There's a moment, and you know it the instant it happens. Something flickers. A scene plays out that feels strangely familiar, like you've been there before, but you haven't. That's déjà vu. And it's one of the earliest signs that your reality may have shifted. Déjà vu isn't just a glitch, it's a marker, a signpost. Neuroscience can explain it as a neural misfire, but in the world of shifting, it's more than that. It's a sign that your consciousness may have crossed into a timeline where events are slightly different, but still connected to a version you've already lived. Another sign, emotional changes that come out of nowhere. You wake up feeling lighter, more hopeful, or sometimes the opposite, an unexplained heaviness. These aren't just moods, they're signals. Your emotional state is one of the fastest ways to detect when your internal alignment no longer matches the environment around you. It's the body saying, something shifted. Then come the synchronicities. You think of someone, and they call. You talk about a topic, and it shows up in a video or conversation minutes later. Numbers repeat. Messages appear. Things line up in ways logic can't explain. In my own work and teachings, we see this again and again. The moment the brain and heart enter coherence, life starts organizing itself around that signal. You also begin to feel present in a world that looks the same but feels different. Familiar spaces carry a new energy. People behave unexpectedly. Time flows oddly, either too fast or almost frozen. That's because you're no longer fully anchored in the version of reality you knew. You step sideways, slightly, silently, but meaningfully. These early signs may seem small, but they're the whispers of a new timeline calling you forward. So how do you know it's real? You start with a test, a small one. Ask a question, not out loud, but in your mind. Something simple, something clear. Then pay attention. Watch how reality begins to respond. You might hear a word in a conversation nearby. You might see a line in a book or a phrase on a screen that speaks directly to what you asked. That's not random. That's alignment. That's your reality folding in on itself to reflect your intention. This isn't wishful thinking. It's rooted in one of the most fascinating principles of quantum physics, the observer effect. When a particle is left alone, it behaves like a wave. Pure potential, undefined, unformed. But when it's observed, it collapses into one specific state. The act of looking changes what's being seen. Your attention shapes the outcome. Now think about your life, your thoughts, your emotions. Every time you direct focus with clarity and emotion, you're not just experiencing reality, you're participating in it. You're collapsing potential into form. You're choosing one path among many. This is why those small tests matter. They reveal that the space between thought and experience isn't as wide as we once believed. You think something, and the answer shows up. You feel something deeply, and the external begins to shift. The more you do it, the faster the feedback. The more coherent your inner world becomes, the more organized your outer world appears. And when it happens enough times, something inside you changes. Doubt fades, curiosity sharpens, and you begin to realize you're not just living in this world, you're influencing it. Every thought is a signal. Every emotion is a vibration. Every intention is a blueprint for what comes next. If you've shifted, if you've crossed into a new version of reality, the question becomes, how do you stay there? It starts with your beliefs, not the ones you repeat out loud, but the silent ones, buried deep in your subconscious. Because your reality doesn't just reflect what you want, it mirrors what you believe is possible. If there's a gap between the two, you'll feel it. That's why the shift won't hold, unless your inner world matches the frequency of the outer one you've stepped into. The mind must align with the reality you wish to sustain. That means consciously choosing new thoughts, practicing new emotional states, acting even subtly as if your new world is already true. This isn't pretending, this is training your nervous system to stop reacting from the past and start signaling the future. Every day you reinforce the shift through attention. Your focus is full. What you observe strengthens. If you wake up each morning and feel gratitude before the evidence appears, you anchor yourself deeper into the timeline where that version of your life already exists. Rituals help. Small actions done with intention. A breath practice. A phrase you repeat in silence. A short journal entry describing the day as if it already happened the way you want. These rituals aren't magic, they're pattern disruptors. They remind the brain, we're no longer who we used to be, we're choosing something new. And then there's mindfulness. Learning to pause, to feel, to catch yourself slipping into the old story. And in that moment, choosing again. This is how the shift becomes your new baseline. Not through force, but through repetition. Not through hope, but through coherence. You're not just entering a new reality, you're building it. One belief, one breath, one moment at a time. The ability to shift realities is powerful. But power without awareness can lead to confusion. When you begin experiencing multiple versions of self, time, or possibility, it's easy to lose touch with the one you're living in now. That's where balance becomes essential. Psychological immersion into alternate states, when left unchecked, can blur the edges of what's real and what's imagined. Research on emergent daydreaming cultures has shown that while many find emotional healing and expansion, some experience disconnection, disorientation, and detachment from the present. It's not about fear. It's about staying conscious while exploring altered states. This is why grounding is a critical part of the process. Shifting isn't meant to escape reality, it's meant to reshape it, so you must stay connected to the body, to the breath, to your current environment. Daily practices like journaling create an anchor. When you write what you felt, what you noticed, what changed, it helps your conscious mind process and integrate the experience. Self-awareness becomes your compass. Ask, am I using this shift to grow, to heal, to expand, or am I avoiding something I don't want to face? That kind of honesty keeps the practice healthy. It reminds you that you are in control, not drifting in an endless sea of imagined timelines. Even neuroscience supports this. The more integrated your experiences become, the stronger your cognitive clarity and emotional stability. The goal isn't to float between realities, it's to fully live the one that feels most aligned, most conscious, most alive. So explore, shift, expand, but always return. Return to the now, to the breath, to the truth, that you are not lost in a dream. You are awake, and you are choosing deliberately your next version of reality. Reality doesn't always shift with thunder. Sometimes it moves like a whisper, quiet, subtle, but unmistakable. A glance that feels different, a moment that echoes from somewhere you can't name. These are not illusions, they are invitations, signs that you've stepped into a new version of your life. You don't need lightning bolts to know you've shifted. You feel it in your thoughts, your emotions, your surroundings, and the more aware you become, the more these shifts reveal themselves. They're powerful, they're real, and they're happening more often than you think. So the next time life catches you off guard, when something feels off, but in a strangely perfect way, pause, breathe. You might not be where you were yesterday. You may be living in a brand new reality. Now it's your turn. Have you noticed signs? A sudden change in mood? A message that came at the perfect time? Share your experience in the comments. Let others know they're not alone on this journey. And if you're ready to keep exploring the edges of possibility, what shifting means, how it transforms the mind, and what science is starting to uncover, our next video dives even deeper. If this message reached you, there's a reason. Like this video, subscribe to Dr. Myles Munroe, and tap the bell so you never miss what's coming next. Your reality is shifting. The question is, are you ready to walk fully into it?